What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Law Benfica Podcast, episode number 420. Is it 27 or 20? Is it 27 or 24? I lose count. Anyway, my name my name is Alfredo. With me, as always, Cristiano Oliveira. Cristiano, what's happening?
Como é que é, Alfredo? Tudo bem?
When I'm not there, man, your whole setup is screwed
And
up.
our Fugazi producer, Bruno Barros, let me down, man. The camera can't set it up. The guy doesn't show up. I think we need to put out a feeler on Twitter to see if we could get ourselves a new producer, Alfredo. I think we need to drop that guy.
Yeah, I don't know about.
You and Bruno, are you guys on speaking terms yet?
Always love that guy. Love that guy.
No, it's actually 424. I think I screwed that up. But anyway, Dave De Oliveira is also here. What's happening, Dave?
Nothing much. Good to be back on here tonight.
Awesome.
Good win, too. Good win this weekend.
Yeah, good win. But before we get to the win columns, we got a surprise for you all since it's international duty, and we figured we do something a little different. And you heard Cristiano talking about João and Maria with the broom. We got the real deal. You got Steve and April with us, obviously, as you may know them. The mixed doubles, curling, Portuguese representation. Can I introduce you guys as that?
Yeah, that works.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for joining us. And I know that this is a little bit off the cuff in terms of what we're used to, but we felt it was so interesting to bring you guys on and at the same time teach people about curling.
We love it. It's our favorite sport. We love it. It's taken us places we never would have expected. So we are happy to come on and chat with you guys. And thanks so much for having us.
So awesome. So let's start at the beginning. And I know that, April, you were a lifelong. Is it called a player or a curler?
You can either one. Either one works. Yeah, I started curling when I was 12, and then I've been curling steadily since I was about 24. So that's 26 years of curling now. So it's a sport I've been doing for a long time. A little less for Steve.
Yeah, and Steve, you're clearly the more famous of the Seixeiro clan. How did you get into curling?
Well, April introduced me. I played a lot of hockey when I grew up, and then we lived in Seattle, and I played a lot of hockey there. Curling was something that was her sport. I played hockey. She introduced me to it, and I fell in love with it. So it's a lot of fun. It's more social than hockey can be, far less physical from a hitting perspective, but it is a fun sport. So it's a lot of workout if you're sweeping a lot, and it's on ice. And it's very Canadian as well.
I know it's less physical until your wife hits you in the mouth with the broom, eh?
Yeah, that's the worst ice experience I've had in a sport came from her hitting me with a broom in the face.
It was just a nudge.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's start with, in layman's terms, could one of you guys explain to our audience what curling is about?
Sure. It's kind of like bocce on ice. So we've got a 42-pound rock. It's granite from one particular place in Scotland. And we slide it on ice down a lane that's about 140 feet long to what's called the house. It looks like a big bullseye at the other end. And we do that by sliding in this lunge position. And it's really a pretty darn amazing sport. It's you don't have to be super athletic, but some athleticism really takes you a long way in the sport. So it's like chess on ice. It's just the best sport on earth. If you ask me, maybe second best to you guys.
I absolutely think it's an amazing sport. I think you guys made a sport out of a broom in a tea kettle. I think that is amazing. So congratulations. It is an absolute honor to have you guys here on the podcast with us. Alfredo and I have been doing this for many years, Dave as well, but Alfredo and I a little bit longer. And I think this is the first time we've ever had the privilege of speaking to to Portuguese internationals. So thank you very much for not big timing us. Thank you very much for taking the time and joining us here. I just wanted to give also a big shout out to I believe a colleague of yours, because he's also a Portuguese national team curler, but I believe he's like what you guys would call singles, right? He's by himself, so singles, right? I would assume. Derek Marks. It would be singles, right? No,
there's no such thing as singles.
alone.
There's a team of 4.
Okay, whatever. So Derek Marks, I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with him, so I just want to give him a big shout out. And I just wanted to once again reiterate that I think you guys are doing an amazing job. You're representing our country, our beautiful country, in ways that Alfredo and I just until recently thought it was, and with all due respect, was the joke. This is the Maria João with the broom and the tea kettle. Growing up in a Portuguese household, I had to wash the dishes and mop the floor every night before going to bed. Had I known there was like actually a sport out there, I might have taken the whole mopping the floor a little bit more serious. So thank you guys for taking the time.
Yeah, you could have made the Olympics.
Yes. Hey, you never know.
That's awesome. So tell us about how this connection to Portugal came about, because up until then you guys were just curlers in your own right? You guys live in British Columbia in your own right. How did that phone call come about, or that contact come about?
Go ahead.
Sure. So we actually, it was just a few years ago that we noticed on Facebook, there was a Curling Portugal page. And it was a page put together by a friend of ours, a guy that's been working with us since, João Cardoso in Portugal. He's in Lisbon, and he's never actually gone to a curling game, but he saw it at the Olympics on TV, and he thought it was fascinating. And so he wanted to try to get Portugal to have a curling team. And so he helped create this Facebook page and put out this call for national Portuguese curlers to see if there was anybody out there. There's not any ice in Portugal to curl on right now. And so, there isn't going to be somebody in Portugal that has that experience, but there's plenty of Canadians that are Portuguese, plenty of US citizens that are Portuguese as well, that have tried curling and have played. So we saw that. I responded and said, hey, I'm here if you are interested. And we had a chat, and then we became part of the conversation about becoming a team. They found out that April curled a lot as well. She wasn't a Portuguese citizen at the time, but since then she's become a Portuguese citizen. And so they decided, hey, there's this, one of the types of curling that you can do is mixed doubles. And that's one man, one woman. And you put us together and that's a team. And then you can compete at an international level. So that's how it started. It's been COVID sort of paused that a little bit for the last couple of years. But since we've been able to go and do stuff, that we've got one tournament under our belt now, and hopefully we'll have many more to come.
Right. Because so that tournament, was that the pre-qualifier for the Olympics in Turkey?
Yeah, that's what that was. That was, the first step toward the Olympics and Portugal's first ever international curling event. So that was amazing. It's so spectacular to wear these jackets and step out on that ice and represent Portugal. It's just been incredible. It's an honor, a huge honor.
So awesome.
Yeah. So where do you guys and where does the program go from here? I know you guys had the tournament in Turkey. Are there any other Olympic qualifiers that are coming up? Or is that it for the 2020 games?
So for the games coming up, that's it. We only had our team that could actually play at the Olympics. There's only 3 different versions of the sport that you can play at the Olympics. There's a men's team, a women's team, and a mixed doubles team. And we were the only team that could actually try to qualify. So what we went to was the pre-qualifier. If we had made it out of that, we would have gone to the qualifiers, which are coming up in a couple of weeks. And then if you got out of that, the top 2 teams out of that would make it to the Olympics. Our next tournament is actually going to be trying to qualify Portugal for the World Championships. So every year they hold, World Championships, and we're going to try the same thing. We have to go through a qualifier first. If we end up in the top 4 of that qualifier, we make the World Championships, and that's the top 20 teams in the world. So we're looking forward to that.
And that's in January in Scotland. So we're very excited to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Cristiano, did you know that the kettle that you're talking about is actually a piece of granite But that piece of granite is just not any piece of granite. That piece of granite actually has to come from Scotland, right? Why is that, Steve, in April? Why is it? Why does what makes that piece of granite so special that needs to come specifically from Scotland?
And not just specifically from Scotland, it's specifically one island off the coast of Scotland. And it's really to do with the density of the granite. And so these things are hitting each other on the ice, and sometimes they're hitting each other with a lot of force. And so you need to make sure that whatever piece of granite or rock that you're going to have isn't going to break. Imagine your granite countertop and you drop, a bowl on it or something and it chips. You can't have that happen on the ice. You can't have that happen with these rocks. And so they have to take and sustain a lot of force. So really, one of the things is the density of it and making sure that it's the toughest it can be.
Yeah. So is there a limited supply of granite in that island?
There is. I think it's
probably.
a large limited supply, though. We're okay for like several years at least.
Talk to us about the broom, right? It's not the common household broom. And I don't know if that's
There
what
we
you
go.
call it. Do you call it a broom?
Yeah.
So
this
talk
is
to
it right here.
Portuguese colors. Look at that, beautiful.
To me, it just looks like a modified Swiffer, if you ask me, right?
It kind of does.
So tell us about that. What's it made of, and obviously how you use it on the ice and how it changes the direction of the stone.
Sure. I'll talk about the broom itself, and then April can talk about what we do on the ice. So this broom, it's made by a Canadian company, Hardline. It's upside down for you. Let's see, there it is. Hardline. And so the broom is made out of carbon fiber. So like there are hockey sticks, for example, that are made of carbon fiber. So it's super light. And you want it to be light so that if you're sweeping a ton over a weekend or at a tournament, you need to be able to maintain as much strength as possible. So being light is important. The cover here is a special material for competition play. So this one, we had made specially in Portuguese colors so that we could represent Portugal at the event. But the cover itself is like this woven sort of fabric. It's a little bit water resistant. And when you're sweeping, this could get wet, but you're trying to make sure that, when you're sweeping, you keep the broom as clean as possible.
So yours is made of synthetic material?
Yeah, and all competition ones are now. This is the only type of broom head now that's legal in competition play, this nylon fabric.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because I heard that previously was either hog or horse hair.
Yeah.
Right? Is that correct?
When I learned how to play, it was horsehair brooms, and those were newfangled at that point. And it's enough of a large sport that people keep innovating the brooms, and so this is the latest innovation. And several years ago, we went through a period that's been called Broomgate, where this company Hardline made a broom that was super efficient and effective. It was so much so that they actually pulled it. World Curling Federation banned it from play, and they had to go to the standardized head and make it a little less effective because people were just steering the rocks like crazy.
Yeah, so talk to us about how you use it to steer, because it just seems that you're just like brushing things out of the way so the rock goes by quicker. But that's not the case, right?
Alfredo,
There's actually some thought.
Alfred, I just want to jump in here. I think you've become an expert at this. I think if anyone, the Portuguese authorities right now listening at this moment, wherever they are, right around the world or tomorrow morning, whatever, if you guys are looking for a sideline reporter, Portuguese sideline, Alfredo is your man. I just wanted to say that, Alfredo.
I'm sure there's probably
Fantastic question.
27 other people in Canada that are a lot more qualified to report about the sport than me.
Hey, you're doing a great job. And I'm going to say, too, that João Cardoso, our friend in Lisbon, he's a big fan of your podcast. So he's going to be listening to this right now and being like, hey, I want to talk to Alfredo here and get him into our program. So.
João, I could carry the Gatorade, João. I volunteer.
So, April, tell us about how you use the broom to obtain the objective that you want from the rock.
Yeah, the broom sweeping can do a couple of things. It can make the rock go a little further. and it can make it go straighter, or you can actually curl it under some circumstances, make it curl and bend even a little more. And the directional part is done by putting very small scratches in the ice that affect the travel of the rock. And the distance part of it is occurs by reducing the friction on the bottom of the rock, so it can travel a little further. A lot of the stuff about the broom and what it actually does, it's really interesting. We've learned so much in the last several years since the whole Broomgate episode, about what exactly the brooms have been doing. We had a lot of theories before, but there's been a lot more learning since then. So it's pretty cool. Now, this guy here is an amazing sweeper. And when he's putting all this pressure on the rock and I'm screeching at him at the top of my lungs, he can make that rock go so much further or just bend and save my bacon.
So Steve, did you pick that brooming technique from when you used to clean your parents' house on the weekend on Saturday mornings?
We had a central vac, so
fancy.
We didn't have a broom.
But when I really want him to sweep, I play the Portuguese music, and he jumps up and he just starts sweeping like crazy.
Yeah.
What is it, the batupé? What's your go-to?
I don't know. I was woken up many times at like 6 a.m. on Saturdays with my dad cleaning the house, and Portuguese music started. So
now, sweeping is a key part of curling.
Absolutely.
Would you guys say the screaming and yelling is also essential? Is there like the instructions? Because I'm telling you, that's like growing up in a Portuguese household. You over there and your mom screaming and yelling at you. So I mean, is that also a key part of the game? Because obviously the instructions, the directions. I mean, I'm just trying to.
Yeah. So like when I'm sweeping, I don't necessarily have my head up. I'm just pounding on the broom as much as I can. When you're on the broom, you actually want to put as much force on that as possible. And so really you're looking straight down to try to keep as much momentum going forward as possible. So when April is yelling at me, I know that if she's yelling harder at me, I need to sweep more, or I need to sweep in a particular direction. So she'll give me instructions on what has to happen with the rock. And so like she said, you can make it bend a little bit, or you can make it go farther. It's my job to determine that, how far the rock is going to go. If she says, hey, throw it to this position, and it doesn't have enough force to get there, I have to sweep it so that it can get there. And I have to be pretty accurate, right? You win and lose this game by inches. We can sweep a rock 3 to 5 feet sometimes if you're really good at it.
Yeah. So how often do you guys practice?
So we play currently in 3 leagues a week, and then we've got a weekly practice with an amazing coach here who we've been working with now for the past year and a half. So we play a heck of a lot.
Is there any talk of hopefully sometime in the near future of somewhere in Lisbon, Porto, in Portugal somewhere, where they would actually stage this? They would set up a sheet, what you guys call a sheet, right? And have you guys come out there and show the Portuguese community what it's like to actually curl? Because hopefully, like you guys said, you'll qualify for the World Championships and even the Olympics, which is a tremendous honor for the country. So is there talk of any example to set it, to show the rest of the country what it's like?
Sure. Yeah. Like our federation would love to do that, and they certainly are talking to people. Obviously, the better we can do and the better the other teams on the Portugal curling side can do, the more excitement that they can have, and the more people will want to do that. They are actually putting in some ice in Serra de Estrela this coming holiday season, I think. And so they're going to be able to show people some of it. It's not going to be exact kind of what we're doing in terms of curling, but it'll give people a flavor of what's the ice surface like. They'll have actual rocks there in some of the equipment. So they'll get an understanding of it. And the other thing that they have done, not on ice, but you can do floor curling, where you set up the houses and you have rocks that you can throw that are on rollerblade wheels or something like that. And that kind of gives people an understanding of it if you don't have ice. But yeah, someday, we're hoping that there'll be ice and we can actually go to Portugal and show people what it's all about.
No, sorry, Chris and Alfredo, just for context, the ice isn't your regular ice like at your local hockey rink or your skating rink. There's pebbles in these ice too, so that's probably, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve and April, that's probably why there's no rinks yet in Portugal, curling rinks?
Yeah, it is very specific ice, and the surface has to be pretty perfect in order to play a reasonable game. You can kind of make a sort of curling experience on hockey ice, but it takes some work. So yeah, Portugal's really not had an ice arena yet. So this first arena up in Serra de Estrela is going to be their first shot at having some skating and a little bit of curling. So
since we're talking about ice, right? I love ice hockey. I grew up watching ice hockey, and I know after every period they come in with the Zamboni. What's Zamboni? with the Zamboni. And
that's different. That's not a hockey game.
And they clean it up, and they actually give you a clean sheet of ice.
Yeah.
Due to the fact you're over there sweeping, right? Do you have to get new sheet of ice? Do you actually have to, or do you just play on the same sheet of ice, however long the game takes?
No, so you play on the same sheet. The only thing they do in competition play, halfway through you get a break, and in that break they clean the ice. So they basically just run a soft broom down the ice to get rid of any imperfections that might have fallen, like hairs or something, to get that off of the ice. But that's about it. You play the game fully on the first sheet of ice as the sheet was started.
April, you want to answer that?
Oh, okay. I'll answer the second part of it. So I love bacalhau. My dad was from the east coast of Canada, and I grew up eating salt cod. So I absolutely adore bacalhau. And I think when I first met Steve's parents, Steve's mom had made pêchés de bacalhau, and I just ate all of it. And I think she was like, "Who is this Canadian girl you brought home who loves bacalhau?"
So that was it. You were in.
I was.
So talk to us about there was something else that attracted my curiosity, is the fact of shoes, right? Because the right shoe is not the same as the left shoe, right?
Correct. Yeah. So to be able to slide on ice, you need to have something slippery. And so one of the soles of one of the shoes, depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed, you'll have Teflon on the bottom of it. And so that'll be the thing that you're actually on top of sliding. And then you drag your other foot with a regular shoe. That other shoe is going to have what's called a gripper on it. It's basically thick rubber so that you don't fall. And so, when you learn, you have to learn to keep your balance. And that's one of the things about curling is, you may look at it and think, oh, that's easy. And then you try sliding and you realize that I'm going to fall on my butt. And so it's not easy to get your balance. Once you've done it enough, then you can figure it out. But sliding is a key part of it, because that's where you get your momentum of throwing the rock.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can pull up those pictures again, but there's a couple of them where we're actually in the slide position.
Yeah.
And you can see the front foot, that's the Teflon foot. And, you're sliding on that, and the back foot is trailing behind you. And you got to stay in this position, like you're holding that position. You're lining up at a very particular place. You got to let go in a very particular way, because you're aiming, to hit a target that, might be this big down at the other end of the ice. So, the shoes.
It takes flexibility. It takes to hold that position, because I'd fail right there. That'd be the end of my curling career, just right there. But how do you guys, so one sweeps, one throws the stone down the ice. You guys rotate, right? You take turns, and how do you determine who goes first? Do you flip a coin? You just pick who goes? How does that work?
Well, for us, since we play mixed doubles, we throw 5 rocks. One of us throws the first rock and the last rock. The other throws the 3 in the middle. And for us, what we found works best is I throw first and last, and Steve throws the 3 middle ones. We could switch it up, but we don't, because we find that this works for us. The other thing that works for us is Steve does all the sweeping. He is a better sweeper than I am. And, my strength is looking at where the rock is going and telling him, I need you to curl it, or I need you to keep it straight. So for us, that's what works for us as a team.
So wait, you said you throw the first and the last.
Yep.
Normally in penalties in soccer, it's like usually the best guys go first or last. Pressure. So are you saying that you're a better stone thrower than Steve is? I mean, just between us, he's not listening. We won't tell him.
I'll give her props. It's all good. She definitely, the last rock is usually a lot of pressure, and she does really well under that pressure. So if you throw that last rock, you might be facing 4 other points that are out counting you right now, and you need to make a perfect shot. I like the sweeping. I like being able to judge kind of where the rock is going to go, and knowing that I can affect it and get it to the place it needs to. And so that helps me. And I love the pressure too. In men's games, I'll play that last spot too.
Go Portugal! Come on,
man. This guy, right? It's Portugal.
Now, because of the doubles, you don't have the other compared to like the regular 4 crew curling. You don't have your set sweepers, so I kind of forgot about that because you're like, for instance, Steve, when you're tossing the stone, you have to get up right away and start sweeping right away. So that's one of the main differences between the two games, other than the 5 stones. And the 1 stone is there, is it not, in the doubles match, where in regular curling there's not a set stone at the beginning of the end, correct?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, there's 1 stone out front and then 1 stone in the house. And I'm sorry, this is like a curler's hand motion. We always do this to tell you where rocks are. So yeah, there's 2 place stones at the beginning of an end. End is like an inning in baseball, and yeah, that is so different with the sweeping.
Look, I don't know anything about curling, but I know a little something about bocce ball. And I always did all right because I would just aim my ball at the opposition ball and get it out. So why don't you just knock their stones out of the way and keep yours in the middle? Isn't that like a great strategy? I just gave it to you, by the way. If you qualify for the World Championship on that strategy, you got to give me some credit.
Yeah, isn't that great? Definitely a strategy you can employ. There are some rules against it.
They saw you coming and they were like, we got to do something so Cristiano doesn't have Portugal win everything.
Yeah. So
what is the rule behind that? Because I've seen it, like when you want to clear or what's it called? Clear
guard.
A guard, like clear the guard, but to blank the end. Like everybody just hits their own stone, right? Just to make it a draw for the end to keep the hammer.
Yeah. So in mixed doubles, it's a little bit different than the regular play because we have a couple of stones already preset. You can't hit. You can hit stuff, but you can't take it out of play until the 4th rock is thrown, and so that prevents people from just getting rid of all the rocks and just getting 1 point and making the sport really boring. And that used to be the way it was, where back in the 80s, people would just hit everything, and games would be like 1-0.
And the crowd would be like, boring.
Exactly.
That was like a Fernando Santos Portuguese national team game. Like that. They just changed the rules.
And look, I wanted to really thank you for taking the time and sitting in with us and telling us about your sport. But before you go, I have a quiz, a 5-question quiz that is going to test your knowledge of the sport.
Okay, right? We're ready.
So, first question, and all of these should be fairly easy for you guys. Where did the sport first originated?
Scotland.
I don't have the bell, but that's the bell.
Ding, ding, ding.
Peraí, I got a bell, Alfredo. You
got a bell and a buzzer?
I got everything.
Okay.
But
go.
I gotta find them.
All right.
But they're here somewhere.
What year was curling officially added as an Olympic sport?
Oh, it was Calgary was unofficial.
Yeah,
Albertville was official. 1992.
98.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nagano.
Oh, I need a buzzer.
I was going to jump in, but I want you
What was that? A flushing of the toilet?
No, that was the Star Trek
objection.
demon. Where did the first curling world championship take place?
Oh, geez, these are tough questions.
You guys should know this. I know who won the first World Cup.
I think it's Perth. Scotland.
It's in Scotland. So I give you at least, it was Falkirk and Edinburgh.
Okay.
1959. Which player has won the most Grand Slams?
Most Grand Slam, is that Gushing?
Is that international or Canadian Grand Slam?
No, Grand Slams. Grand Slams is
Sportsnet series.
Sportsnet series.
Yeah.
So that's Canadian.
Canadian, but it's full of international players too.
Yeah.
I'll give you a clue.
Okay.
Kmart.
Oh, it's Kevin Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Don't tell any Canadians who
And the very last one: which country currently holds #1 ranking?
It's not Portugal.
Men or women?
Men. Let's go, men.
That is that a Dean?
I think it's
I think it's Sweden.
Sweden is correct.
Awesome.
Can't use this one no more.
So, thanks again. Anything that you guys want to throw out? Any shout outs? I know that people in the chat were pretty excited about what we've done here, and we're also very excited. And thank you for enriching our knowledge of the sport. I'm definitely going to be watching it now with a little bit more interest and with a little bit more knowledge. The biggest thing as I'm researching the sport was that the circle, which gets you the most points, or maybe the second most points, is red. And my favorite color is red.
There you go. So yeah, thanks so much for having us. And, we just want to say if there's any other citizen curlers out there, reach out to the Portuguese Winter Sports Federation. They're fdiportugal.pt, or you can find us on Twitter. We're G60MD Curling. And also want to give a shout out to our other current team for the Portuguese program. And that's the mixed team, which is the Ribau family from Oakville, Ontario. And, keep your eyes on us. I think that as we keep going, you're going to see more people coming forward, and we're going to end up having more teams representing Portugal out there.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. Thank you guys very much for taking the time to come on here and talk to us about this. Those jackets are super cool. A lot of people in the chat want to know where they could get them. So, I mean,
you got to earn them. But there is talk that maybe one day we're going to have some Portuguese curling fan gear. So we'll be letting people know as soon as that's out there.
Thank you so very much, and best of luck. Hope you guys win it all, and we could be back here on the podcast sooner than later to talk about your accomplishments. And hopefully Dave could come out and catch you guys at a rink near him sometime and tell us all about the story. We'll be jealous. Maybe Alfredo will have to make a trip out there to watch you guys curl.
Never mind, we're gonna have to start the Benfica Podcast curling team. We just need one more to make it a 4-person team, and we're good.
I'm just going for the beers.
That's it. Cerveja, sardinhas.
If you guys are ever out our way or we're near you, we're going to teach you how to curl. So keep that in mind.
I wouldn't mind. So you can follow Steve on Twitter at @seixeiro and Gail at April at AprilGale60. And again, their joint account is at G60MD Curling.
Thanks so much, guys, for having us.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, and thanks again for joining us.
Okay.
All right, take care, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Well, that was great. That was great, Alfredo. I think we should keep talking about curling, but that was great. That was fantastic.
That was really good. That was really good.
They're a good sport, man, and I wish them all the best. And, obviously anytime anyone's representing our old country is a reason for us to talk them up and wish them best of luck. Them, along with Derek Marks and everybody else that's joined our, I was going to say Portuguese Federation. I guess it would be a federation, right? But, yeah, just fantastic. Had I known that this was a sport, I would have swept, I would have mopped my mom's floor with a little bit more enthusiasm. And, maybe I wouldn't be here today, but maybe I'd be on the other side.
You heard it's more than just sweeping. You got to get that balance to just get the rock off.
The sweeping and the yelling. Somebody said on the chat, how are you not world champions at this, the sweeping and the yelling? That sounds like something that Portuguese would be pretty good at.
I'd be bad. I don't yell a lot, so,
So anyway, here we are. I hope that everyone enjoyed that, man. We certainly enjoyed that, learning about the sport and talking to Gail and Steve, and it was great.
It was cool.
It was really good. So now back to our regularly scheduled program, Benfica, obviously, right? And we kind of had this set up to kind of avoid talking about Benfica, but it was such a great weekend for Benfica, right? Braga at Estádio da Luz, give you the lineup: Vlaco Dimos, Veríssimo, Otamendi, and Vertonghen, Gilberto and Grimaldo, Weigl and João Mário, Rafa, Everton, and Darwin was the lineup. So Cristiano, no surprises here, right? Because JJ had saved some guys in Munich. What's so funny?
The comments. I'm just enjoying this. I'm because I was thinking the same thing and I didn't say that. I try to keep it appropriate. But yeah, remember when I'd see girls yelling hard, hard, harder. I mean, it's a dope ass sport. I mean, drinking. I mean, I've seen it on ESPN. What's this? Not ESPN, CS, whatever. What's it called? Which is SN? What's the channels? Yeah, Sportsnet. I've seen that stuff, on the internet and stuff, and so it seems like a party. Seems like a great time, and I'm just enjoying the chat. Benfica, hey, ganhamos.
So as I was asking, JJ saved some guys in Munich, Weigl, Rafa, Otamendi, Darwin, and those guys are back, and those guys were absolutely crucial for this game. Cristiano, did you expect Braga to come out and play Benfica the way they did?
I mean, coming into this game, as we talked about last week, Benfica was 1-4 in their last 5 games against Sporting Clube Braga. I definitely anticipated a much, much tougher match than what we got at the weekend. Now, Benfica came out, took advantage of their opportunities. If I'm the opposition, especially after a game like this, and plenty of other games that we played so far this season, and even on the JJ last season when things were doing okay, I don't understand why teams don't just give Benfica the ball and just pack it in, because once you give Benfica, the space, once you try to come at Benfica has the ability to counter. They're deadly, and we've seen that with the speed of Rafa and Darwin. Those guys, we often talk about here on the podcast. You can't teach speed, and that speed is killer. So Benfica took advantage of their opportunities. Credit to Braga for trying to mount a comeback, but then after that, Benfica just smashed them. And it was one of those Benfica-Braga matchups that we'd grown accustomed to watching over the years until recent times. Because Benfica had always dominated Braga. I believe the first time we lost to Braga started to lose was that game that Enzo Perez got subbed out at halftime and left his very last game that he played for Benfica. That was the first time we lost since, I don't even know, like 86 or 66. There was a 6 in there somewhere. So Benfica was pretty dominant at home against Sporting Braga, and this game was reminiscent of that. So credit to JJ, credit to the team for coming out, and after a terrible week in Champions League football and having so much doubt, and Benfica was finally able to put a whole 90 minutes together. And we just don't understand here on the podcast. I'm pretty sure that our Freddies will agree with this. We don't understand why we don't get more of these consistent
I'm going to tell you why.
Performances.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you why.
Please do.
Because not every team plays up on the field like Braga. And even Carvalhal admitted that because of the short rest, his game plan was fine, and that's typically what his style is and what this Braga style is. But the fact that they didn't have a lot of rest, right, and players were somewhat fatigued or they didn't have the same freshness, the high press, if it's not done correctly, they end up getting burned. And I think by leaving space behind their back, it allowed Benfica to get behind their back. And obviously, I'm not taking anything away from Benfica.
Well, they caught Benfica with that as well on their goal. They caught Benfica napping as well. Otamendi pressed hard and was caught out of position, and credit to them.
Yeah, but think about how many teams sit back in a low block against Benfica.
I would all day
and give Benfica a hard time.
I would the whole day. You've seen any time Benfica's played. We've seen it with the smaller squads. Anytime they give the ball to Benfica and they just play compact in the back, and Benfica struggles because we've stated before, there's not much creativity. Our guys, recent with the exception of speed, they're not really taking anybody on one-on-one. So I just look. It was a perfect storm for Benfica. The opposition was tired and weren't able to press the way that they like to press, and yada yada yada. But guess what? I understand, but Benfica was tired as well. They had an extra 2 days, I believe, of rest. I get it. But these guys are professionals. And unfortunately, this is the schedule. So, look, both teams got plenty of minutes under their legs, and Benfica just had a better day. It was a perfect day.
Yeah. Let's talk about this first half. Benfica was up very early with the goal from Grimaldo after a good feed from Darwin. But Braga came back in the 12th minute. Then we had an injury to João Mário. And Dave, when you saw the injury to João Mário, because he's not a guy that gets injured a lot, what did you think?
Just the key word for João Mario this season has been consistent, right? He's not a player that's been flashy, but he's been a player that's been consistent every game, connecting the sectors from midfield to attack there. So, kind of concerning. It's good to see that at least we've got the international break. So international break is good for something here to get these guys some rest. But it gives a guy like Paulo Bernardo a chance to get some minutes and to get some opportunity here. I know been discussing in the last couple of podcasts that it's been the same starting 11 game in and game out, and there hasn't been that much of some squad rotation. So don't want to say that it was bound to happen that one of our starters or one of our key players goes down for with an injury, because that's not something that we want. But it's good to get opportunities for Paulo Bernardo to get a chance here to work with this team as well.
Yeah. Cristiano, what did you think of Paulo Bernardo? I know that Seychelles products and the introduction to Seychelles products and the timing of it, sometimes for you it's a little bit of a touchy subject. But like JJ said in the post-conference, is like, look, when you're good, regardless of how old you are, regardless of where you came from, you're going to play.
You asking me? Oh, I thought you asked.
My name's not Cristiano.
I was putting on the head. I'm sorry. I went to get a bottle of water. The question was about the Seychelles products.
No,
I'm sorry because I put on the headphones. I'm so sorry. I thought you were
Paulo Bernardo.
What about him? My thoughts on him?
Yeah.
He's a nice prospect.
Okay. How did you think he made out
In this one game? I didn't look. It's good for a kid that age to get his minutes to get some experience at this level. I wasn't overly impressed. I wasn't overly depressed. I was just look. The kid came in first real minutes at home, I believe, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
First
He
real
had
minutes.
played in the
It was
Champions League.
he played in the Champions League. Whatever. This was his first. I think it was his league debut, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So kid's a young kid, so I don't want to be critical. I don't want to pump him up yet. I think we have a player that, from everything that I hear, that this kid is quality. He's legit. He's the real deal. That the kid has tremendous amount of talent. I didn't see any of that from this one particular game. I think this is a kid that we have to nurture. We have to take care. We can't rush these kids. We have to understand, and like myself included, we have to understand that they're young. You know, they're still 19 years old. They're going to get better over the years with time and experience. And I don't want to burn the kid and then throwing him out there expecting too much right away and then obviously not living up to expectations because the kid isn't ready. Then you're burning a kid. So I think Benfica and Jorge Jesus has to be smart with the way that we use them. Use them when we need to use them. I don't think we should apply him in pressure situations yet. I like to develop this kid the right way, bring him along in time. And then hopefully next year unleash him. And if he gets to that point at some point during the season, fine. But I don't think he's ready to be unleashed yet. But obviously he's a good player. He's a player that's got a bright future ahead of him. And I just would like to take our time with the way that we develop him. That's it. But again, he did what he had to do. He didn't do anything spectacular. Didn't do anything bad in this one game. Moved the ball, got into space, moved it quickly. Was able to touch the ball around. But in a game like this with tons of space around him, I mean, look, if he wasn't able to do that, I'd really be disappointed in his performance. So credit to him. He's got to be ready when you get those opportunities. But I just, I'd be worried about put too much on his plate right away. So in due time, I think he'll get there.
Yeah. I guess that's fair. I mean, did play simple, and perhaps that's what it was asked for him. Don't overcomplicate things. Just play simple. But what I noticed, and as I'm noticing, head always on a swivel, always seeing where he was before he got the ball, while he was adjusting to defend. And look, it's a guy that has obviously been working with the team and has the soccer or football IQ to understand what JJ wants from him. Now it's just a matter of building up on that, as Cristiano mentioned, and really get it to the next level. I think it's that simple. Verissimo picked up a season-ending injury in the 34th minute. We all saw that, and when we saw that, we knew it was pretty bad. Morato came in. Cristiano, do we go to the market for a center back, or do we revert to the four defender setup?
I would. You're asking me. I'd go back to the 4-4-2, and not only because we're very thin in the back line at the moment, but also because we saw in a game this past weekend where maybe the way the team is set up right now, the way that we're playing with the 3-4-3 and not really having somebody in the middle that's able to link up with the lone striker up top, there's might not be a room for a guy like a Sferovic or Yaremchuk. So I think you play in a 4-4-2. You compare those guys along with another one of the Darwins of the world, like another guy that's going to be a little bit more physical, that could press a little bit more than they can. I think it serves both. It kills two birds with one stone. It serves both purposes. So I might just switch it back to a 4-4-2. If we're able to go out and get another center back with experience, hey, then keep things as they are. But right now, facts are we're in the middle of November, so you got to wait at least another month and a half. You got a bunch of crucial games coming up before you can go to the market and get yourself a center back. So now, if you're playing in this 3-4-3 system and you just swap out Verissimo and insert Morato, which you very well can do. But the problem is, what happens with the next injury? What happens if Morato himself goes down? What happens if Vertonghen, Otamendi?
You got Ferro.
Now, Ferro makarto lado, man. Ferro right now doesn't count.
But if he doesn't count, why isn't he playing for the B team?
I haven't. Listen, the fact is he hasn't playing anywhere, and I don't understand. Like, I'm with you. If this is a kid that whatever, you name the player. If this was a player that had gotten minutes at some point throughout the season, like Morato's playing games here and there. He'd start a game, then he'd come off the bench another game, and you knew he was really, the fourth option. I mean, I can't even tell you what Ferro's done, really. I mean, Ferro doesn't even get any minutes in the freaking Taça de Cerveja. So how could I tell you now all of a sudden I'm going to rely on this guy to come into the lineup and be a regular for me over the next month and a half until I could go out to the market and get me someone when he hasn't even played in the Taça de Cerveja games? I just think it's a lot to ask for. And Diogo, I'm reading your comment, give Ferro a chance. I'm not saying I wouldn't give him a chance. I'm just being honest. He hasn't got much playing time. How do we know what we got there? We really don't. He's not playing. What's the reason he's not playing? We don't know. It's not as simple as you and I coming on here on a podcast, and obviously we have the microphone, and you guys with the comments, which we appreciate. And one day we'll open up the mics for you guys as well. But look, it's one thing us coming on here and saying, "Oh, well, I'll give this guy, give that guy," but there's a reason why he doesn't play. He hasn't played now in over a year. I mean, think about it. He left Benfica on loan to Valencia, played that very first game against Real Madrid, didn't play another minute again for that team. Hasn't played since. Come back to Benfica, hasn't really played. Doesn't play in games in the Taça de Cerveja. That leads me to believe that, bro, like, he doesn't count. Now, you're not asking me my opinion. I'm not making the decisions. I'm just trying to be in JJ's head. What's the reason why he hasn't gotten a single minute? There's got to be something there. So I don't know. Look, if he's ready to go, if good, roll him out there. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? We recover another player, right? A guy that at one point we all thought was on the road, was on the path to being a fantastic player, right? So I mean, the worst that could happen, you recover that guy. But I don't know. There's got to be something else there, guys. I mean, Alfredo, Dave, what do you think? The guy's been seldomly used over the last year and a half. I mean, would you really trust him and trust the guy today? Let's say, God forbid, tomorrow Morato's out, and now you gotta go to somebody. I think Alfredo, he'd be quicker. Andre Almeida, he might do something like that before he goes to a Ferro. And
that's what we've seen too in higher leverage games. Like, he's only been used in the Trofense game. He got 70 minutes there in the Taça game, but
okay, that was the Taça game, yeah.
Right. I don't know if his confidence is shot, or there's no trust in there with this 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 coaching staff, but I wouldn't thrust him right into the starting lineup right now. Maybe utilize these games here. I think we've got a game with Covia coming up in either November or December. Maybe that's an opportunity for him to showcase to see what he can bring. If he succeeds there, maybe then you give him another smaller club in the league play. But I don't thrust him right back into the starting 11 right away.
I mean, look, they talk about.
Cristiano, that's a good question for you.
Come
Smith
on,
was
dude.
starting against Strehler. You'd rather that in January or give Ferro an opportunity? That's a great question.
Listen, the facts are. Let's talk about facts. All right, speculations is something else. We're gonna talk about facts. Facts are everything you hear. Reports are that they're promoting the kid Araujo, right? That's the kid that's getting prepped to be called up, and he's gonna be the option. I mean, they're everybody. I mean, again, I understand it's just paper talk, right? But some of these guys get these inside scoops from somebody at the club. They don't just go out on a limb and whip out a rumor out of a hat and say, "Let's go." I mean, they do a lot of times, but with things like this, I think that there's somebody that's feeding them something in their ear. And if indeed that is the case, think about it. Like a kid from the B teams being, passing right over Ferro. Ferro's being passed over for a guy like that. So how could I sit here in good faith and say, "Oh yeah, Morato at the end of her time get hurt tomorrow"? That's cool. I'd play Ferro all day. I honestly, I don't think I could tell you that if that's what's gonna make you happy, but I don't think that's what JJ is gonna do.
Good question. Benfica would end up scoring 3 more goals. Darwin assisted, Rafa assisted by Everton, and then again, Rafa assisted once again by Everton. As a matter of fact, both Rafa and Everton had monster games, and this was something that we had been asking or waiting for from Everton for the longest time. But Benfica goes into the locker room 4-1, and I think that was really the game. After initial period,
Was it 4-3, Alfredo?
4-1.
I thought it was 3. I don't know. I'm going crazy. I'm
I
sorry.
wrote notes, so
I thought it
and
was
I
3.
wrote them as it was happening. 4-1. And I think that was all she wrote. There was an initial period, as I mentioned, that Brago seemed that they were gonna play eye to eye, but when they scored the equalizer, but I think after that it was all Benfica. 5-1 Everton with the Rafa assist in the 52nd minute, and then the 59 6-1 Everton again with the Darwin assist. And I think that after that, I think the team just put it in Pizzi control, brought in Pizzi, and then the game just stayed the way it was.
You know what it was? They scored 3. That early goal, you're right. They scored 3 goals right at the end of the first half. So I don't know why I was thinking it was only 3-1. Mas tu sabes melhor que eu. That's why you're the capitão.
Well, I take notes while you just, you try to remember shit.
And I do a bad job of that at times.
Yeah, but look, I think that after all the talk during the week of upheaval in the locker room and CMTV and Record and Otamendi and JJ, I think that the team couldn't have answered all these rumors any better than what they did on the field. Obviously, JJ addressed that in the pre-game conference, and then he addressed it again in the post-game conference. So he's just, don't believe everything you hear. Obviously, there's always there's little tidbits of information that escaped, and then that people kind of build up on that. But I think that it was very far from the truth, because if the team was not with JJ, this would have been the perfect game to let him fall. And the team didn't. As a matter of fact, the team, this is probably the best, not probably, I think this is the best I've seen the team play this season. Dave, would you agree?
I just want to take it back a little bit. If this wasn't the game that the players wanted to kind of make the bet for JJ, to bring it back 3 years, we were kind of in the same situation with maybe even more than 3 years when Rui Vitória was still the manager. We were coming into a big match against Braga at home as well. And all the talk going into that match was if Benfica didn't get the result, Vitória was going to be out. And then we ended up putting a 6-2 scoreline together that match day. followed by the infamous 2-0 result in Portimonense, where that was Rui Vitoria's last match in charge of the club. So kind of interesting to see that late a couple of years down the road, the same thing is kind of playing out again, where we had some turmoil with the club and we were able to pull out shellac on Braga. Hope that we don't lose the next match to 2-0, but I hope this is just something of more to come and not an anomaly.
Yeah. And JJ, I've been complaining that the team had been playing too many games and not enough to work out the team. And I know that he's going to be missing some internationals, but certainly these week or 10 days of players just having the team to himself and just playing, it's going to do well. But it always seems that as Benfica has a good game, we have an international break that interrupts that momentum that we're gathering. So we'll see. But certainly this international break, and especially with João Mario, which I hope is nothing serious. Obviously, Verissimo, as I mentioned, he's gone for the season, or he's going to not be available for the rest of the season. But João Mario, I hope that he's able to get back and be healthy. He was dismissed or he was excused from the national team, which is probably a good thing. I don't know if he would have wanted to be associated with that national team or whatever went on with the national team today. But that's it. Good win for Benfica against Braga, against the team that was right under us, despite having some points difference. But certainly a good win for Benfica. Cristiano.
What's the word on João Mario's injury? Because he obviously was subbed out pretty early in that game as well.
I haven't read anything. Maybe the Freddies know something, but I haven't read anything. And apparently, it wasn't something that was. It might have just been a knock on his back, or maybe a Charlie horse on his back, or whatever it was. I'm not really sure. I haven't read anything, but he may be okay.
I hope so. Obviously, he got late. He didn't have to report to the national team due to this injury, right, Dave?
Neither him or Rafa, both of them.
Yeah. Dave, stats on this game, man.
Yeah, some positive stats here. I think, dude, I don't even know if we went over it. Everton kind of had a breakout performance with the club here. He had 2 goals and 2 assists, and in the last 10 years, only 4 players for Benfica have scored twice and had 2 assists in the same game. Everton, Seferovic, Jonas, and Nolito were the other 3 individuals there. So good to see Everton pulling out a performance that we've all been wanting and talking about the last couple of weeks here. And both Rafa and Darwin are now tied as Benfica's top goal scorers with 8 apiece.
Maybe George Jesus listened to our last couple of podcasts where I, over and over told him that some players need to be treated differently, and this is not what Everton was brought to Benfica to do, which was defend. Maybe the word trickled into the locker room. And JJ, what do you think, Alfredo? I mean, we got.
He's there in your.
He definitely heard us. He's
there in your office, isn't he, Chris?
We got Portuguese curling officials who are fans of our podcast, and why not have Benfica, managers listen to our podcast? You never know.
JJ can listen all he wants. He probably won't understand a lick
of
what is being said.
Speaks English, bro.
JJ's a fan of curling.
JJ's a curler. He's got his own sheet of ice at home. You got enough money for it.
Yeah, Bruno's saying upper body injury, but nothing serious for João Mario. I haven't heard anything, so like Carlos said, no news is good news. Anyway, what else we got? That's it, right? Let's wrap it up.
All right, bye, guys. Hey, curling team, keep it up.
Yeah, next week, obviously because of international break, we're also going to be taking an international break. We'll be back the following week to bring you more content.
If you're looking for Portuguese curling content and you happen to trickle in and stumble upon our podcast, Alfredo's the guy to follow, and Dave's an expert. Me, if you want to party, I'll be outside doing the interviews, walking around the stadium. I'll do that. But Alfredo's your sideline guy, so Yeah, I'm still buzzing, man. I'm excited. That
This
was
is great,
cool.
man.
That was great. That was
It was
fantastic.
awesome. It was awesome. All right, one. Take care, Dave. Always good to see you. Cristiano,
Who
same.
do we play next, Dave? Before you go,
Passos for the Taça on the 19th.
Portuguese
That's a
Cup.
Friday.
Oh,
Then we have Barcelona.
and then we got Barcelona. That's
Yep.
right.
Take care, everyone. A Barcelona that's now being coached by Javi.
Darwin closed his
Xavi.
eyes, raining at the time. Fechou os olhos e meteu lá o passe.
Take
Later,
care.
guys. Thank
Later.
you. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Arrivederci.
Ciao.
Bye bye.